Well, an ancient dust method. Chaotic and destructive methods come in many shapes and have a wide range of abilities. Most are drawn from the various elemental and quasi-elemental planes. Dust. So just damage reduction in general. Let's see if the book has any effect on it. It does. Fantastic. Down you go. Just one more. Well, for all its mystical energies, it appears it was relatively easy to deal with. Yeah, magic bullets, something he could sell if nothing else, and many bones. Rotten heavy crossbow, and an enchanted locket. It's worth keeping. Many crumbling bookcases, but with no books that, well, at least still looked like books. The mechanics of flight. This well-thumbed book is signed by the author, someone named the Great Carus. Carsus. Learn how to read, author. The technical jargon is too difficult to decipher fully, but judging by the illustrations, it was a popular textbook outlining the fundamentals of how to shear off the top of a mountain and make it hover at varying heights above sea level. Victor would quickly jot down notes from this, even if the specific techniques were lost. The ideas were something he could hopefully make use of. He had learned already that trying to pick up these tomes would give him no fruit. Bear him no fruit? The narrator still doesn't know what he's talking about. Mechanics of Flight again. It appeared to be quite the popular book. Let's see, what about these other bookcases? Anything else of use with them? The Art of Lichdom, something that he had already briefly glanced through. Cabernacky's Guide to Mythols. This book appears to be an ill-organized reference almanac. Interesting. It defines... I almost died. Muted that real quick. A note to anyone that wants to narrate, breathe, don't choke. It defines the term mythol as a large, semi-permanent spherical zone of interwoven and highly customized magics in which the laws of arcanism are altered or adjusted to better suit the day-to-day needs of those choosing to live within said sphere. The text goes on to explain that every mythol depends on the existence of powerful artifacts known as mythallar, and it is through these mythallar that the mythol is controlled. In a later appendix listing the various flying cities that were then a part of the Netherese Empire, it is noted that Undertine's mythallar were housed atop a centralized structure called the Temple of the Winds. Now this was something Victor would take exceeding interest in. Even if he couldn't learn to make his own mythol, he wasn't even certain that he'd want to. Such a powerful magic seemed dangerous even in good hands. But if he could take the concept, the fundamental laws of creating a zone of interwoven magics that he could customize at will, and power to manipulate the laws of effectively reality, that was a concept that was connected to creating bags of holding and similar items that manipulated planar or temporal or even more advanced things such as spatial magics and similar aspects. It could be of immense use to his future studies. And it was why it was worth writing down. The City of Shadows, 2 copies of it. I don't remember if he checked this one, but we're going to do it just in case. Nope, there's moldy tomes. And another ancient myth. At least these seemed fairly easy to deal with, he says, knowing that he very well may have just made a mistake saying such a thing. Let's use the 2 of those first. Thankfully, the book that Drogon had granted him was proving invaluable in these circumstances, and he was getting much better with that crossbow. He could still hear Dorna chiding him in the back of his mind. He had to resist the urge to smile sadly. A book, however, would catch his attention. Temple of the Winds, Rites and Rituals. The Ritual of the Three Winds. When the Mythar's master wields its power atop the Temple of the Winds, the holy secrets of its workings are to remain sealed behind the temple gates, and none but the Giver of the Winds may pass. The Giver of the Winds must first be their seeker, however, and then their finder. The winds are known as the dark, the dead, and the wise. In 3 places do they lie in wait. The dark is held by he who created it, the High Arcanist of Undertide. May his life-blood be eternal. The dead is held by the priests who tend the crypts. The wise is held by the librarians and lore-keepers, the knowers of wisdom, the sages of dust and time. When all 3 are gathered, the Giver of the Winds must relinquish them into the Ark, that the winds might be transformed and seal at last be broken. All that was fine and good, however, the concept of the dark being held by the High Arcanist of Undertide, the individual who made it, and the line, "May his lifeblood be eternal," made Victor very, very uncomfortable, because that meant that very likely he was going to be dealing with a lich. If nothing were going to test his arcane abilities, that certainly would. And this was clearly a trapped door. He had noticed the other one. He'd go through that first. That scorch mark was far too telling for him to risk it. This one appeared to be in better condition. And of course there was another mephit guarding it. Right then. Oh, this one appeared to want to engage directly in physical combat first. Well, that was fine. Victor was getting competent enough with his crossbow that he felt he could handle it. And he would be right. Only a couple bolts and the creature went down. All the bones certainly said something questionable. Had they all died on impact? He didn't see any rubble, but he supposed that didn't matter too much. They could have simply died from shock, or the shockwave that followed the direct impact. A new book. The Poetry of Daggett Filth. Right then. I can smell your feet. Their odor lingers even these many years after your last tread here. Now there is only dust and shadows as my belly scrapes the ground. Daggett Filth, year 832 after the fall. Damn, I'm bored. What? It's a joke poetry book. Special use, Tash's hideous laughter. It's probably going to fall apart as soon as we try to grab it, however. Yep, as assumed. Victor is not really sure how to feel about that. That was a terrible book. I suppose that's how he feels about it. Right, another door. Huh, and this one to a private case. He's going to try a bit harder this time. He doesn't trust this, though any traps that still exist are certainly going to be quite potent. Just the book he's already read, it would appear. A private study, perhaps? It's hard to say. Oh, this is a much larger room. And multiple methods. Right then. Oh, the shakes are truly driving him insane. Every time it happens, he's not certain he's going to make it out. Well then. He's most certainly getting better at that. It's impressive. The cloak is most certainly amplifying his attack speed. However, the fact he's still managing this is quite impressive. They still haven't come after him, so he's going to keep standing here taking pot shots until they go down. There's one. Only one, it would appear. Well then. Victor is going to not question the fact that the other two don't seem to realize that bolts are flying at their comrade. The less spells he has to use, the better. Oh, that is a very large creature that hasn't noticed him yet, thankfully. But the moment it moves, he is running away. What is that? Born of the quasi-elemental plane of dust, these creatures are denizens of I should pause. Denizens of hidden or forgotten places. There are no known limits to their size and have been known to grow to considerable proportions. No shit, says Victor. A dust elemental. And, uh-oh, Victor is dazed. That's not good. He must have failed a will save. As long as the dust elemental doesn't notice him, maybe just for safety. Thankfully, even though daze does limit that, it doesn't mean he can't get out of there, so that's something. No, he disrupted the spell. Fantastic. I don't know if the AI is bugging out or if their spot is just that low. I'm going to assume that it's just that low because as soon as I enter line of sight, they cast and attack as per normal. They just can't seem to chase after Victor. Okay, that's them down. Now we get to deal with that. Victor is not taking any chances. Most certainly not taking any chances. Oh, that apparently auto-saved. That's nice, I guess. Alright. Let's deal with Oh, good. Well done, Victor. Nice shot. Well, it doesn't appear to be too potent, especially since Victor's getting some very nice hits in with his crossbow. Oh, the critical hits are... the dice are in Victor's favor. Wow, it had a lot of hit points. Whew. Victor's got mixed feelings on that, because clearly the only reason they managed that is because he managed to get lucky on a few pot shots. As did the spider, amusingly enough. He won't complain, but he's certainly not going to assume that he can just handle any of them that show up that easily again. He's not that foolish. He's definitely getting more confident in his ability, however. Now, what was this way? That had clearly been trapped. No, not this door, another. He was too far off from the initial entrance. Well, he supposes that he's about to get quite the test. I can't just send the spider in there, can I? Can I command it to attack that? I don't think so. I don't think the AI is quite smart enough. Or perhaps it can't even notice it. Alright, well, let's do it this way then. Ow, even with damage reduction it does that, huh? Oh, wow. Yeah, most certainly not going to assume that he can just handle any of them now. Though I don't think they will need... Oof. It has a sound blast aura, apparently. That's nice. Definitely glad I summoned the spider now. Well, it's very large, it's very fast, and it's very scary. However, luckily, it seems to be very stupid, like many elementals. So Victor will count his blessings, he supposes. Moldy Tomes. Art of Lichstone, Moldy Tome. That's another one of those poetries. Moldy Tome. Why are there so many of these poetries? They are terrible books. Potion of Cat's Grace. Now that's useful. And a chalice of some sort. Golden Chalice of Lathander. This pure gold chalice is finely worked and bears the symbol of a sun rising upon a blooming rose. On command, it sheds a bright light equal to a light spell. The chalice can be commanded to create a healing circle, which uses one charge. When all three of its charges have been used, the chalice retains its light ability. Well, it only has one charge from the looks of it, but perhaps that's been edited. Yeah, okay. Interesting. So it's a semi-permanent item. 3 circles of healing. That's definitely not something that he's going to scoff at by any means. Alright then. He would have preferred something from Helm, but the Morning Lord is someone that he respects as well. And he's certainly helped him out thus far. Defeating the mummy for him was quite helpful. Now, hopefully, there isn't another one of those shadow elementals in here. No, dust elementals. Oh, lovely. There are many dust elementals in there. Okay. Let's do what we can then. And... well, for now, that might actually be enough. We'll see where it goes. Alright. That is a lot of things. Okay. Is that close enough? Is that going to hit everything? I'm kind of concerned it won't. Let's do that instead. Oh boy. It's a lot of stuff. Alright. Another one of those. Okay, that killed a lot of the Mephits. Oh boy. These things do not mess around. Oh, that's an AoE spell. I probably should have paid attention when I actually, chose these. Do that again then. Alright. Well, that's better. Desert Fury, please. Okay. This isn't as bad as Victor initially assumed it would be. Still not great, but it's much more workable than he had thought it was going to end up. But that elemental's just going to kill itself. Alright. I think Victor's just gonna... Oh, well. The mental attacks are certainly a bother.
That's it for you. Take that.
Well, Victor, in his confused state, actually lashed out with his staff and somehow managed to actually kill the creature that he hit. I suppose happy accidents even occur to Victor, for all his bad luck. Alright, well, switch to that. Start taking out the last of the Mephits. Surprised that it has gone as well as it has, Victor would help his spider take out what remained of the creatures. Now, granted, he had used quite a few of his charges and more potent spells, but it could have gone much worse, considering this appeared to be the final room. What's going on here? Did Victor get knocked down? Yes, he did. Okay. He was knocked down by a gust of wind. Gotcha. Alright. There we go. Well, that was handled. Victor, surprised at the lack of injuries he'd sustained, though granted, the spider he'd summoned had actually taken quite the beating, he was able to patch that up well enough. And, of course, doing this reminded him of how many times he had patched up Dorna. Once again, he was hit with a bitter taste in his mouth, and forced to shove it aside for now. Man, so many of these bullets. I guess that's the loot that the Mephits drop. Maybe that's what they were firing after they used all their spells. I suppose that would make sense to a degree. Right then. Did I miss any? Victor's very aware of the giant pillar in the center of the room, by the way. He's just trying to gather all the loot first. Perhaps not the finest priority, but maybe a little bit of Dorna has worn off on him. Now that's a bitter thought, isn't it? And it appears those are the only books that have survived, so he's going to put that alone for now. An empty tome. The ink that once covered these pages has all but faded away, leaving a pale, blank surface. Hello everyone, and thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos and don't want to miss out on future content, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification button. If you would like to support me on a more personal level, offer recommendations, chat with me, or vote on future series, then consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Thank you once again for all your support, and I can't wait to see you in the next chapter of our story.